Pharmacist Ben.
What's up, AJ?
How
Better
are
late
you?
than never. Better late than never.
You know what? The folks understand that things happen from time to time, and all we can do is do our best.
All right. Well,
So
I
that's what we're doing.
it can never be said I didn't do my best.
No, you go above and beyond, man. You're like
I want to do my best. Hey, do you think my hair looks blue?
It might be all the colloidal silver you're drinking.
Maybe so. Maybe it's one of the people women when they get older, their hair turns blue. I don't know if you know that.
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Are you concerned at all about the color of your hair? Like, seriously?
No, but I just never saw blue before, and I don't know if it's really because of my shirt or.
Yeah, it's definitely some sort of reflection. But Dr. Wallach talks about
blue hair.
He talks about gray hair.
Yeah.
As being a copper deficiency.
Well, what he means is copper is involved in the pigmentation process. So if you're deficient in copper, you won't make pigment. That doesn't necessarily mean gray hair is a copper deficiency. It's not the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're deficient in copper, you can't make pigment and you'll have gray hair. But that doesn't necessarily mean that all gray hair is a copper deficiency. See the difference?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Otherwise, you just take copper and you wouldn't have gray hair. Gray hair is great, but copper deficiency will cause gray hair because you can't make melanin without copper. Follow?
Which goes into a whole nother story. Remind me one day when you got time to go down a rabbit hole to tell you about it. So, folks, welcome to Pharmacist Ben's Bytes on this Monday evening. Thank you for all the folks watching on Rumble and Facebook. I just need to get the word out on Twitter. But Pharmacist Ben,
yes, sir.
I wanted to start with our title. Our good friend, Dr. Leroy, is dealing with skin issues.
You sent me a picture. This is not Dr. Leroy. This is one of his patients. Correct?
This is Dr. Leroy. Can you see that image?
Yeah, but there you go. I was going to say if you could put it up there. Okay, so that is a systemic issue. What you're looking at is blood vessels that are weak and bursting and leaking, and that's what that bruising is. Now that'll typically happen to older folks, or it'll typically happen to people who have serious health issues. I don't know what Dr. Leroy has, but that's a serious issue. That's connective tissue breakdown. What you're observing is the blood vessels, which are made of connective tissue, breaking down. I don't know if it's probably a combination of breaking down and leakage. Not sure which, but it's a connective tissue condition. And it usually happens when somebody is pretty broken down. I didn't know Dr. Leroy had a health condition. Does he have a health condition?
Yeah, his forearms are loaded with purple, probably due to the high dose of prednisone and Eliquis.
It could he's on Eliquis. I got it. Yeah.
Also looking at maybe OSO1 peptide for the skin, OSO1 peptide for the skin. But skin is getting really bad and very.
Hang on. Oh, what's the OS? I didn't understand what you said about OS1.
OSO1 is apparently a new peptide.
No, I know, but what about it?
He's thinking about using that to resolve his issue. No,
that he has way bigger fish to fry. OSO1 is it's silly season. It's not gonna make a difference. What he's got is what he's dealing with is a major connective tissue breakdown. OSO1 is cosmetic ingredient, and cosmetic ingredients typically aren't going to do much. When they advertise cosmetic ingredients, they say things like designed to, promotes, helps improve. Those are called weasel words. Have you heard? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
So things like, clinical studies demonstrated the effectiveness to reduce signs of age. Dr. Leroy is dealing with a severe problem here. You're not going to cosmetically get rid of that. Now, what I'd be more concerned about is the Eliquis. Now, Eliquis is a blood thinner. And when you have blood thinning, you can have blood that leaks. And that's what that appears to be. That's what I was saying. It's either the blood vessels breaking or blood leaking. Eliquis will cause stuff like that. But I'm looking at his arm, even aside from the bruising and the the blood, it looks like there's some kind of health challenge going on. So is he on the call? Is Dr. Leroy on the call?
Dr. Leroy may or may not be on the
call. This is a serious condition here. This is a serious condition. His problem's not going to, he has bigger fish to fry than worrying about his skin. He's got to deal with the connective tissue. Now, I don't know why they don't put you on Eliquis unless you have a severe problem. So I don't know what he's on. And you say he's on prednisone also?
Yeah, he had a bone marrow transplant.
Oh, we didn't say that. You didn't tell me that.
And he won't take EFAs because they told him it'll interfere with his Eliquis.
He doesn't need, EFAs will thin the blood, and so the doctors don't want him to thin the blood because, like we always say, they don't want the nutrition to interfere with his poison. Understandable. And I mean, it sounds silly, but that's really what it is. EFAs do a lot more than thin the blood, but they also they'll liquefy the blood a little bit. I would lower the dose of the Eliquis and take the EFAs. He's going to be like a heavyweight fighter with one hand tied behind his back if he's not using nutrition. EFAs are extremely important for healing, and it's very difficult to get from food. So, he's going to be EFA deficient, which is going to compromise his healing. So, you got to do what you got to do. If he's a doctor, he's got to talk to his doctors, and tell him that he wants EFAs and lower the damn Eliquis dose. You know what I'm saying? You understand? If you lower the dose of the poison, then you can take the nutrition. You follow what I'm saying here?
Yeah.
Instead of just not taking the nutrition and keeping the poison high, let's lower the dose of the poison and take a little nutrition.
Just from past conversations, I can remember him saying things like his immune system suppressed because of organ rejection, and that was like
major. This is AJ. We're in the nutrition business, nutrition supplement business. When somebody is this broken down, there's a lot of work that needs to be done. You don't just roll out of bed one day and have this kind of breakdown. This is degenerative, and it's going on for a long time. To deprive your body of nutrition when you're this degenerated is really difficult. This is a guy, and I can only see his arms, so it's hard to say exactly.
He drinks Tangy.
Well, that's definitely helpful. What is our most important first principle?
Where you see the damage is not the source of the problem.
That's right. The check engine light is not the engine. It's just the signal, the sign of the engine. So if you treat the check engine light with anything, what would you say to somebody who had a messed up engine, but they were treating the check engine light? He says ridiculous, right?
Yeah, you're going in the wrong place.
That's the check engine light you're looking at. And it's not just the bruising, there's also puffiness there. So I'm looking at just the check engine light. I don't see the body. And Dr. Leroy wants us to help his check engine light. I got to look at the whole body. I don't know why he's had a bone marrow transplant, but I'm sure that has something.
Well, he had the C word at some point.
Right. I'm sure that had something to do with the breakdown. So this is a guy who needs an entire nutritional workout. This is not, and I really want to emphasize this because it's so important. We're not doing this for that. You know what I mean? When I say this for that?
We're not doing allopathic nutrition.
We're not doing allopathic nutrition here. This for that. We're treating the body, the entire body. We're treating the system. So what I would be doing, this is a guy who needs major nutrition and digestive health probably as well. So I would be doing the Healthy Start Pack. That's the basic. Everybody gets the Healthy Start Pack. Now, there are EFAs in the Healthy Start Pack, and the doctor's going to tell him not to do the EFAs, so he has to lay off the EFAs. I wouldn't, but that's what his doctor wants. And, he doesn't have to listen to his doctor about it. He gets to decide. But given that he's going to, if he wants to listen to his doctor, then lay off the EFAs and do the Healthy Start Pack, do the rest of the stuff. I would be doing the ultimate enzymes, which are very important for bruising. And I would be doing connective tissue building supplements because his blood vessels are leaky. Now, partially that's the Eliquis. There's nothing you can do about that because you don't want to throw off the blood. And I'm going to talk about that here in a second because that's a really important subject. But building the connective tissue is going to be very important. And building the connective tissue is the Healthy Bone and Joint Pack, glucogel caps, collagen peptides, Fucoid Z, TMR Shake. What else can we think of for building the connective tissue? CFX, Ultimate MSM. There's a whole bunch of stuff. Building the connective tissue. That's your strategy. Now, you probably have some digestive things. So I would also be doing digestive stuff, but I have to talk to him about that specifically. But we really want to emphasize where you see the problem is not where the problem is. Now, he also probably has some immune issues, thus the cancer. And cancer is degenerative as well. It doesn't kind of just happen. It happens when the body has been under duress for a long period of time. I'm not sure do you know how old Dr. Leroy is?
68.
Okay, so we want to get Dr. Leroy to feeling better, and that can be done. Forget the signs, the symptoms, the arms, the check engine light, the rotten apple on the tree. We want him feeling better and feeling stronger, and that can be done. And that really is a very important message. You know, when we have a health challenge, we naturally want to get rid of the health challenge. But the most important thing is to feel good, is to feel strong. If you get rid of a symptom, but you feel lousy, does that help you? But if you feel great and you have symptoms, who cares? You want to feel great. You want to feel strong. You want to feel powerful. And that we can help you do. It involves nutrition, number one, obviously. And it also involves some lifestyle things, like avoiding certain things. Presumably, if he had cancer and he had a bone marrow transplant, he's on serious medication. Number one, he's had some problems for a long period of time. And number two, the medications themselves. I'm going to really emphasize this. It's so important. The medications themselves will accelerate degeneration. Now, you need the medications because they're kind of keeping you alive, maybe. So I'm not saying don't take the meds, but everybody needs to understand the medications themselves will accelerate degeneration. And when you put people on medications who are already degenerated, you're going to make the degeneration worse. Now, this is a paradigmatic issue. It's a paradigm. So it's not this individual case. This is the way the medical model looks at things. They're trying to treat individual symptoms. They don't see the whole big picture. I'm not telling him not to take his drugs. I'm not telling anybody not to take their drugs. I'm just saying you cannot avoid accelerated degeneration, particularly with prednisone, which is a super nasty drug, and Eliquis, which is nasty as well. So you can't avoid degeneration when you're on these drugs, A. And B, you can't avoid nutritional deficiency when you're on those drugs because they're going to cost you nutrients as your body attempts to clear them out. Now, what I want to also say is blood clotting and thinning. Remember, we talked about the blood on Friday, right? The blood viscosity and coagulation versus fluidity balance is tightly controlled. Tightly, it may be the most tightly controlled system in the body is the fluidity of the blood. Now you're taking a drug and you're completely throwing off the fluidity. So you're dealing with major blood toxicity from the Eliquis. And all disease is cell disease, and all cell disease is dirty blood. So you're there's no way nutrition is going to take care, is going to balance out the Eliquis. But that doesn't mean you don't want to be pounding nutrients. In my humble opinion, if it was me or he was my dad or my brother or somebody I was working with, I'd be pounding the nutrients, not just taking a little bit, pounding them. And I'd be giving them I'd be telling the doctor, forget it, I'm on the EFAs. That's just me. And that's what I would be suggesting. But even forgetting the EFAs, all the other things we just talked about, healthy bone and joint pack, Fucoid Z. He may not like the Fucoid Z either because the Fucoid Z also has a blood thinning effect. But it's also, incredibly beneficial for the immune system and building connective tissue, among other things. So these are all things that the patient is going to have to decide for himself. Now, he's a doctor. I don't know what kind of doctor he is, but I'm sure he has some understanding of the body. Dr. Leroy, okay, good. That's great. Dr. Leroy's a chiropractor. You got the right to tell a doctor, I need essential fatty acids. They're critical for the healing process. They're inflammatory. They play a role in the inflammatory system and the anti-inflammatory system. They're critical. You can't grow tissue without them. So to say get off of EFAs represents complete biochemical ignorance, which they're not trained that way. They're not biochemists, so they're not trained that way. So, if you lay off the EFAs, fine. But there's other nutrients. One of the things nutrients do, like vitamin E and the Fucoid Z, as we talked about, they liquefy the blood. They help the blood flow, and they don't want you to help the blood flow. So they don't want to support blood flow because they're already giving you the Eliquis. So you have to decide. I'm putting them on as much nutrition as possible. Particularly, the Healthy Bone and Joint Pack, as I said, and all the connective tissue building supplements. I would also throw in the Ultimate Enzymes on an empty stomach. Very important for healing. Ultimate Enzymes, pre-surgery, post-surgery, very helpful for the healing process. The Ultimate Enzymes. They probably told them not to eat green leafy vegetables as well, because they have supposedly the vitamin K in there will clot the blood. But, that's just the medical paradigm. So he has bigger fish to fry than the bruising, but the bruising is a sign that there's stuff going on in the circulatory system.
Pharmacist Ben, we got a couple related questions. Coach Rod is asking, what about people who worry about the nutrients when they're on blood thinners?
Well, yeah, that's what I was just saying. The way the blood flows, we talked about this on Friday, it's super tightly regulated. The body is it's a regulatory system. They call it bioregulation. Everything's controlled. The ups are pulled down, the downs are pulled up. The hot is turned to, if the system gets too hot, it cools down. If it gets too cold, it heats up. It's constantly adjusting. That's called homeostasis. It's constantly doing this. It's constantly like a gyroscope. It's constantly adjusting itself. Now you put a major drug in the system, boom, you've skewed it all the way over here, a blood thinner. So instead of adjusting, which the body wants to do, now you forced it all the way to the left, let's say, or to the right, let's say, to the blood thinning mode. That's what Eliquis does, and that's what the blood thinners do. Nutrients aren't going to touch that. You're not going to, with nutrition, like, for example, if you start taking vitamin E or the Ultimate EFAs, which have blood thinning effects, or the Fucoid Z, and you're on Eliquis, that's not going to touch Eliquis. Eliquis is like, boom, it's pulling it all the way down here. But that's not what the medical folks think. So you're going to be dealing with the medical folks saying, don't take your Ultimate EFAs. So you have to make that decision. I can tell you, Fucoid Z is not going to touch Eliquis. It's not anywhere in the ballpark of Eliquis. Eliquis is like a nuclear bomb, and your Ultimate EFAs are like a pea shooter. And you're comparing the two. Oh, we don't want you to take a pea shooter because it might destroy the nuclear bomb. That's idiotic, of course, when I say that way, but that's what you're talking about. But that's how they're trained. So that's what we live with, and that's what we deal. But whoever is the patient has a right to say, I need the nutrition. That's another thing about it, is not only is the nutrition not going to touch the nuclear bomb, but the nutrition does a whole range of things. It doesn't just Fucoid Z or your Ultimate EFAs, they don't just thin the blood. They play 100 different roles in the body. So you're depriving the body of the ability to maximize or optimize 100 different functions. This is, when you think about it, can you see how ludicrous this is?
Yeah,
you're depriving the body of the ability to optimize dozens, if not hundreds, of different biochemical functions because you don't want to have a little pea shooter affect your nuclear bomb of Eliquis. It's ludicrous, but that's what we deal with.
That example is much more dramatic than Darth Vader and Grandma.
It's the same idea. It's the same idea. That's what I'm saying.
But it's clearer.
Yeah.
It's definitely
They're
clearer.
trained to see everything as drugs. Nutrients are not drugs. The distinction between nutrition and medication is lost on the medical model. The distinction between vitamins, minerals, aminos, fatty acids, the mighty 90 essential nutrients, and pharmacology, that's not part of their mindset. They don't see a distinction. And that's why sometimes they'll say that you'll hear them say things like nutrients don't work. Nutrition doesn't work like it's supposed to work, because that's not what they do. Nutrients feed the body. It's not like they work. And that's why I'm always cautious about this for that or allopathic nutrition. We're trying to get the body strong. We're trying to make the body healthy. That's what we're trying to do here. The medical model is trying to keep you alive. Is that a bad thing? No, of course not. You need to be alive. We're trying to get you healthy. They're not going to get you healthy. The medical model cannot make you healthy. I'm going to say 3 times because it's so important. The medical model cannot make you healthy. The medical model cannot make you healthy. They can save your life and keep you alive, but that's not the same as being healthy. Does that make sense?
100%.
They can save your life, but that's not the same as being healthy. Do you want to save your life? Obviously. That's a good thing to save your life, but it's not going to make you healthy. They're there for emergencies. We have given them the role of health because, or they've taken it through clever marketing, and we've given it to them through abdication of our responsibility to live a good life, a clean life. We've given it to them, but they're not equipped for that. They're not equipped. They don't have the tools to make you healthy. God has the tools. Nature has the tools. The body has the tools. The medical model does not. They have the tools to keep you alive, but not to make you healthy. So for them to say, we don't want you to be healthy because we want you to be alive, obviously there's a little problem there. So that's why I say, lower the dose of the Eliquis and take the EFAs. Lower the poison. If you're afraid that the nutrition will be too much if you're taking the poison, lower the dose of the poison so you can take the nutrition. That's how I would approach it.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I think that their model probably doesn't allow for the thought that nutrition can actually make you healthy. I think that the thought is probably...
Because they're looking at it allopathically. They're looking at nutrients as if they were drugs. Oh, vitamin C is not going to lower your blood pressure. Oh, vitamin C is not going to reduce your angina or your hypertension or whatever it is. Vitamin C is not going to affect your cardiovascular system like a beta blocker will, and it's not. But vitamin C is important for making collagen. You can't make collagen without it, and your heart sits on a framework of collagen. So vitamin C is important for the collagen in your blood vessels. If your blood vessels are broken, like we talked about this the other day, if the endothelial cells, the cells that line the blood vessels, are disturbed because your connective tissue is weakening or because your blood is toxic, you're going to have hypertension. Is vitamin C going to lower your hypertension? No, but it can strengthen your collagen. See, that we have to change our metrics. We've allowed them to set the goalpost. They're trying to lower your blood pressure. We're trying to make your blood vessels strong, right? And so you got to decide, what is it that you want? And patients have to decide this for themselves. We're guilty because what happens when we have high blood pressure? Where do we go? Where do we go? We go to the
cardiologist.
Or we go to the doctor.
Yeah.
Right? We don't think about how can I lower my blood pressure through supplements, through food, and through lifestyle. We go to the doctor. And that's on us. And I'm not knocking doctors because they're doing their job. But it's up to us.
Do you think it'd be legal for us to open lifestyle centers?
Yeah, heck yeah, it would be. We should. And that's, we're not opening lifestyle centers, but we're opening up Zoom calls for interaction. We're not like seeing patients, and that makes it a little bit trickier too, by the way. Like I can only see Dr. Leroy's arm. I can't really see his body. I can't really assess him like I need to assess him. So that puts us, it makes it a little bit more difficult for us to give good advice. Nonetheless, most people are so nutritionally deficient that anything you put in the system is going to improve their life and make them feel better.
Well,
and that's why, to me, no matter what you're doing, no matter what your health challenge is, the Mighty 90 Essential Nutrients, the Healthy Start Pack, for most people who aren't supplementing, and that's most people, will be life-changing. And that's what Young is all about, by the way. There's lots of multi-level companies out there, network marketing companies out there, but there's only one network marketing company that I know of that's giving you the basics that everybody needs and that everybody's, for the most part, is missing. I shouldn't say everybody because present company excluded, but the vast majority of people are missing the essential nutrients. And that's from a combination of intake and absorption, both important. All right, what's the next question?
Well, our good friend, because we're going in a trajectory here and it's all falling into place. Our good friend, the lovely Becca Dukes, is wondering what would be the best approach to smooth out crepiness.
Crepiness.
Well, you know what? Let's ask her herself.
Oh, there she is. Looking pretty crepey there, Becca.
That's not her, I'm sure.
No, I'm kidding you.
I'm sure it's not for her.
I'm totally teasing. So here's the thing about crepiness. It's funny you say that because I just did I'm in the skin business. I just did a Zoom call on crepiness today. And you look exceptionally beautiful today, I have to say, Becca. You always
thank you, man.
Exceptionally beautiful today. So,
Thank you.
as far as crepiness goes, crepiness is a connective tissue issue. And remember, there's 4 basic stuff in the body. The most important stuff is the connective tissue. The connective tissue obviously connects. That's where it gets the name connective tissue. But it's also a womb for cells. It's the matrix, as we've, I don't want to beat a dead horse here because we talk about it all the time. The most dramatic or the most obvious, we'll say, manifestation of connective tissue deterioration is the skin, because we all see each other's skin. But it happens in the bones. It happens in the fascia and the vertebrae and the cartilage and all the different parts of the body where connective tissue plays a role. As I said earlier, the heart sits on a framework of connective tissues. That starts to deteriorate. The blood vessels are made of connective tissue. That starts to deteriorate. There's connective tissue in the spinal cord, and the bones are connective tissue. And it's global and systemic, but we see it in the skin, and that's what crepey skin is. It's connective tissue deterioration. Now, it's a couple things. First of all, because it's the skin, we can address it topically. You can't address, your fascia topically. You can't address your bone topically, but the skin you can address topically. And I'll tell you how you do that here in a second. And that's really what I do in my skin business is I address connective tissue issues topically. But internally, healthy bone and joint pack. And that's really important because nobody talks about the health, except for us. We talk about it, the healthy bone and joint pack as a global and systemic package of nutrients for not just the bones and the joints. Do you get that? It's not just for it's for the gums. It's for the vertebrae. It's for the cartilage between in your joints, obviously, for your skin, for your heart, for your blood vessels, for the fascia, everywhere. The connective tissue is it's everywhere. Your body's made of connective tissue, not to mention as a matrix for all cells. So the healthy bone and joint pack should be called the healthy aging pack or the healthy connective tissue. And even something as simple as gelatin will help. So all of that for the crepey skin. Then protein is very important, particularly building proteins, especially something called a protein that has something in it called BCAAs. That's branched chain amino acids. Branched chain amino acids are very important anabolic or building amino acids. Protein is very anabolic building, and the amino acids that they call BCAAs with the branched chains, those are very important. They're found in whey protein. Whey protein is probably nature's best source. Eggs, super high protein foods, but I like whey protein. TMR shake, great one, great a source of whey protein. There's also another. Do we still have Fit Shake? We used to have a product called Fit Shake. That's another whey protein product. Whey protein is the quintessential anabolic protein. It's the protein of bodybuilders. And basically what you're talking about with crepey skin is bodybuilding. And then topically, retinol must have high concentrations of retinol. Fat-soluble vitamin C also. Those are the 2 most important nutrients topically. Retinol is vitamin A, by the way. And then fat-soluble vitamin C. And then alpha-hydroxy acid peels can also stimulate. Alpha-hydroxy acid peels are low pH. They also exfoliate the surface of the skin. Both the low pH and the exfoliation properties duplicate exercise. They're a chemical version of exercise. So alpha hydroxy acids at low pH, glycolic acid, lactic acid, in combination with fat-soluble vitamin C. There's a product called, there's an ingredient called THDA. And you can go on my website, truthtreatments.com, if you want to see these anti-aging products, these topical anti-aging products. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. AJ, you don't have to raise your hand.
Did I tell you when I was about 13 years old, I had a girlfriend, she was like 16.
Yes.
And she had like bad acne thing going.
Yeah.
She got this retin A.
Yeah.
And she had the clearest skin you ever saw in your life.
Retin A. Okay, that's good. That's good. Yeah, retin A is a funny ingredient. When I graduated pharmacy school and started to work in drugstores, mothers would come in with their kids for retin A. And the kids would be all broken out and they get their retin A, and I saw the retin A. And then a month later, 2 months later, just the mother would come in without the kid. And I'd be like, well, she doesn't have acne. I wonder what she's doing. And so we'd give retin A to the ladies, the parents. And then we started getting letters from the insurance companies that would say, we are not paying for retin A if the patient is over 20 years old or over 21 years old. Because retin A was an acne medicine, but what was happening was the kids or the moms were getting a hold of the kids' medicine, and they were putting on their skin, they were noticing the wrinkles were disappearing. because retin-A is very powerful anti-aging. It reverses photo damage. And in fact, the FDA actually has approved it. It has an indication. It's the only ingredient that you can get that actually is FDA approved for reversing photo damage. And then Johnson & Johnson, the company that makes retin-A, they went and did a bunch of research and spent a bunch of money. They got it what's called an indication, so that doctors could actually use retin-A for anti-aging, dermatologists, and insurance companies would pay for it. However, retin-A does require a prescription. Retinol, it's weaker than retin-A, but it gets converted into retin-A. Retin-A is really retinoic acid, which is the active form of vitamin A. Retinol is pre-vitamin A, and retinol does not require a prescription, but when you put it on your skin kind of converts it. There are enzymes in the skin that convert it into retinoic acid. And you don't need to go to the doctor. You don't need a prescription. You don't need insurance and all the stuff that you need with medicine. And that's what we have. I have retinoic acid in my pharmacy, but if you want the over-the-counter version, retinol gets converted into retinoic acid.
I'm going to go with your version because I know what's in it and I trust the manufacturer.
Get our retinol 5% serum. It's made with vitamin C, retinol, all your other vitamins. Obviously, when I'm making skincare products, and I've been formulating skincare products for 40 years, believe it or not, I can't even believe it when I say that, I always use lots of topical nutrition. In fact, I consider all my topical skincare to be topical nutritional supplements. I even have topical minerals, topical plant-derived minerals. So I believe topical nutrition is it's the reason people aren't satisfied with their skincare, in my opinion, is because we're not treating the skin like we treat the other organs of the body. And most skincare products don't contain high concentrations of topical nutrients. That's why I started my skincare company, basically, so you can have topical nutrition to go with your internal nutrition. If you know my body of work, what I do, obviously that makes sense that I would formulate skincare with topical nutrition.
Okay, I can hear all the people out there watching us saying, "What's this beautiful lady doing complaining about her skin? Get out of here. We'll see you later, boss lady."
Love you guys.
Thank you.
So, Ben, we got tons of questions.
Yes.
I'm joking, Becky. Stay if you like, please.
Hypothyroidism. You want to talk about that one? That's
hypothyroidism, 10 years, natural supplement I can take without relying on Armour or Synthroid.
Yes.
To eat.
Yes. I want you to say our first principle, and then we'll talk about the thyroid.
Where you see the problem is not the source of the problem.
So what would you say about hypothyroidism?
You got a gut issue, and then you have a blood issue.
The problem. That's true. But the point about hypothyroidism is not a thyroid problem. Hypothyroidism is not a thyroid problem, which is why nothing works. That's why Synthroid doesn't work. That's why Armour Thyroid doesn't work. That's why even when they give you nutrition for the thyroid, that doesn't work. Because the thyroid's not the problem. You just see it in the thyroid. Now, Armour Thyroid and Thyroid Synthroid and levothyroxine, they call it generically, that'll help in the sense that it'll give your body some thyroid hormone. And when you have a thyroid problem, when the gland is not working correctly, you're not making hormones. So the logic is we'll give you the hormone. But the problem is the gland. You haven't fixed the gland. Are you with me? You've given the hormone, but you've still got a gland problem. Let's try to fix the gland. And again, from a doctor perspective or a medical model perspective, it makes sense to give the thyroid because they're not interested in your health. They're interested in keeping you alive. Right? So that's not a bad thing. I'm not knocking them. I'm just telling you, they're not going to help the health of the gland. In order to help the health of the gland, you got to go backwards. You got to go back the way you came. So you got to work backwards. Everything comes backwards. In fact, that's true about life. That's true about any problem you have in life. You work backwards, right? It's very difficult to solve a problem at the level of the problem. You got to work backwards to the cause of the problem. And that's true about everything. If you can't get a job, you got to go back to school and get educated. It's very difficult to try to get a job when you don't have the proper educational background. It's very difficult to get a job, to learn a skill if you never learned, to get a job that requires a skill if you never learned the skill. And that's one of the reasons why people can't get jobs, why people are unemployed, because they're not working backwards. They're on Indeed and they're filling out resumes and they're going knocking on doors and they're making the phone calls, but they're not working backwards. They're not figuring out, why can't I get the job? And it's true about everything. You got to work backwards. You got to go upstream. The problems are always upstream, and nothing exemplifies that more than health. And the proof of it is we're so sick, but we have so many doctors and so many drugs and so many healthcare accoutrements, all the accessories of health, from hospitals and devices and protocols and procedures and drugs and insurance companies and everything. We got all the accoutrements, but we're not healthy because we got to go backwards. Hypothyroidism has to be worked backwards. Number one, to the digestive system. Surprise, surprise. Number two, to the metabolic system. And that's why I came up with my triangle of disease. My triangle of disease is really about, I came up with it when I was trying to address hypothyroidism, which is an epidemic. Hypothyroidism is an epidemic. In fact, it's been an epidemic since Dr. Broda Barnes wrote a book about it called Hypothyroidism, the Unsuspected Illness. And the book is 40 or 50 years old, and it's a classic. And he lists he didn't really understand the triangle of disease, though. But he did understand that cardiovascular problems, cancer, skin issues, degenerative conditions of all kinds, autoimmunity, they go back to the thyroid. But he didn't work backwards from there. Pharmacist Ben came up with that, the metabolic system and the blood and the digestive system. That's where I was trying to figure out, how am I going to address hypothyroidism? And first thing I noticed was there's an adrenal connection. The adrenal glands are your stress glands. And hyper, too much, adrenal activity from stress, the adrenal glands are your stress glands. Also, interesting, there's another interesting thing about the adrenal glands. The adrenal glands make steroid hormones. And they'll especially make steroid hormones when you're under stress and when you have, for women, when they have ovarian issues. A lot of times the adrenal glands will pick up the slack. And this is one of the reasons why hypothyroidism affects women more than men. In fact, significantly more than men. So, especially post-menopause, as women get older, peri and menopause and post-menopause. So the thyroid backtracks or works backward to the adrenal glands. And I call it the adrenal thyroid axis, or the adrenal thyroid connection, or the adrenal thyroid link. The adrenal glands are responsive to the metabolic system, the blood sugar system. When your blood sugar is going up and down and up and down and up and down, which happens to most of us, the adrenal glands have to work harder. And just like hypothyroidism is linked to hyperadrenalism, dysglycemia is linked to adrenal problems. So behind adrenal dysfunction, you'll find metabolic issues, blood sugar issues, and behind metabolic issues, you'll find digestive issues. To make matters worse, the thyroid regulates the digestive system. So once you're hypothyroid, you're going to have more digestive problems, which of course leads to more triangle problems. The thyroid also regulates the metabolic system, the blood sugar system. So once you have hypothyroidism, you're going to have more problems with your blood sugar, with your metabolism. And the thyroid regulates the adrenal glands. So you get this whole combination of things. But the good news is it all starts with the plane, if you will, which is the digestive system and the blood sugar system. You guys, that's it. Digestion and blood sugar. If you want to go all out, work on calming the body down, work on the adrenal health, but really it's digestion and blood sugar. Digestion and blood sugar. Everything boils down to digestion and blood sugar. And if you're going upstream, those are the terminal ends. The digestive system is the dead end. It stops right there. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
How important is the liver?
How important is the liver?
Please. In this
unspeakably
system,
important. I can't tell you. Unspeakably important.
In relation to
the liver, it does everything. Everything. And the liver bears the brunt of digestive issues and blood sugar issues. Dysglycemia, or messed up blood sugar, induces, as Rebecca can tell you, she wrote a book on it, metabolic syndrome. And metabolic syndrome's key feature is fatty liver. And fatty liver, by the way, affects 1 out of 3 Americans. 33% of us have fatty liver disease. And fatty liver is a serious, they tell you it's normal because it is kind of normal. It's been normalized, but it's a serious problem. It means the liver is not doing its business. It's being overworked. So how important is the liver? And by the way, we talked about drugs and how they cause nutritional deficiencies, et cetera. And these are hidden. Nobody sees them. You know, they don't, when you have a nutritional deficiency in vitamin C, for example, when you take your Eliquis, because vitamin C helps detoxify the drugs, the Eliquis, you're not going to notice it. You may have more heart problems from the Eliquis that the Eliquis is supposed to prevent because you're vitamin C deficient. But another hidden problem associated with prescription drugs is liver problems, liver issues, because now your liver's got to work really hard. And if you're already compromised because you have metabolic syndrome or dysglycemia, now you put even more load on the liver. The liver does hundreds of different things. It's a warehouse. It stores amino acids. It stores fats. It stores vitamins. It detoxifies substances. It bears the brunt of all of our lousy living, whether it's food or whether it's sugar or whether it's drugs. The liver is bearing the brunt of it. And that is why 1 out of 3 of us have fatty liver disease. How important is the liver? It's unspeakably important. Interestingly, the liver regenerates itself. It's one of the, it has an amazing regenerative capacity because it's so darn important. The ancient Greeks thought the liver was the brain. They thought that the liver was the main part of the body.
Okay.
And by the way, I forgot about Dr. Arya's liver cleanse. Props to that great product, which we don't talk about anywhere near enough.
What do you think of those Collinber's liver tabs?
I don't know what's in it. If you tell me the ingredients, I hadn't seen that.
SOD.
Is that a new one?
No, it's not new, but it's like a L-glutathione extract, aloe vera, and pollen extract.
It's not. There's more important products than that, but glutathione is really interesting. Glutathione is the body's most important cancer fighter, antioxidant, detoxifier, and glutathione injections, IV glutathione, can work miracles for people. I saw a YouTube video a long time ago of a guy who had Parkinson's disease, and he was doing the Parkinson's walk, kind of crooked, and he couldn't really walk very well. And they gave him an injection of glutathione, or they gave him some IV glutathione, and it completely changed everything. Now, he went back to his Parkinson's gait after his glutathione wore off, but glutathione can work miracles on the body. Glutathione is a tripeptide, 3 amino acids, tripeptide they call it, because it has 3 amino acids. And the most important amino acid there is something called glutamine. Glutamine is amazingly valuable, found in whey protein. There are some people who aren't big on glutamine because they say if kind of cells can run on glutamine and they think there's some issues with cancer. Nonetheless, glutamine is so valuable, particularly for the intestine, by the way, that it would behoove everybody to be using glutamine every day, not to mention it will help you make glutathione. The second amino acid in the glutathione molecule is called cysteine. And that's one of the reasons why I love N-acetylcysteine so much, and cysteine. You'll find cysteine in whey protein. And by the way, whey protein not only has the building blocks for glutathione, it actually has glutathione in it, which is yet another reason why whey protein is so valuable. And then the third amino acid in the glutathione molecule is glycine, which is another really, really interesting amino acid in the sense that it's very important for building things, very important for detoxification, in addition, and very important for collagen. It's a component of collagen. And deficiencies are very common, surprisingly. Glycine is found in oxtails and pig snouts and hooves, the kind of parts of the animal we don't eat. That's where the glycine
Say that again.
Animals have parts that we don't eat. The part we eat on the animal is the muscle. We don't eat the connective tissue. The connective tissue is the pig snout. You ever hear pig head soup or goat head soup or anything like that?
But what did you say is in the oxtail and the pig snout? What's
glycine?
In it?
Connective tissue, glycine.
Okay,
for making glutathione. That's why I was saying there is a surprising glycine deficiency state that people have, and which is interesting because glycine is such a common amino acid, but it's found in connective tissue. And when we eat our protein, we very rarely eat connective tissue.
Not the muscle.
We eat the muscle. Yes, that's what steak is, the muscle. We throw out the connective tissue. The connective tissue is the gristle. That's the part we throw out. Meat is really interesting because when people think of meat, they think of the muscle. They don't think of the organs or the connective tissue, and that's where the good stuff is the cartilage and the tail and the snout and the hooves. The ears. That's the part people don't eat. When they think of eating, they think of hamburgers and they're thinking of steak. That's the paleo fallacy, the carnivore fallacy. Yes.
So the oxtail soup connoisseurs,
yes,
they're on to something.
Yes, and pig head soup.
Oh man,
that's what that used to be like the food the poor people would eat because nobody wants those parts, but that's the best part.
Yeah, that's interesting. And I know a lot of my senior friends, they will go and get their liver from the supermarket. They'll go on a certain day and get the liver.
Yeah. And organic though, you want the liver organic because the liver is processing poisons. So if you're not eating your liver organic, you're getting a lot of the stuff that the animal was trying to purify.
Have you ever tried to cook liver?
I hate liver. I find the most disgusting food there is.
They say you gotta dip it in milk. And what's going on?
One time I did get into eating liver, and I don't know if we have time. I'll tell a really quick story.
No, we got a lot of questions, Ben.
We got a lot of questions. Okay,
give me on me.
Okay, I want to tell you a story.
Finish the story.
You want to hear a story real quick? Okay.
Yeah.
So I was eating liver for a while. Like I wanted to get my daughter. She was a little kid. She was like 5 or 6, and I wanted her to get her liver. And so I got her all excited. I said, "We're gonna make liver," and she said, "Oh wow!" She didn't know what it was, and so she said, "Yeah." And I got her all excited, and she stood up in a little chair, and I had her cooking the liver, and I was thinking to myself, what a clever dad I am. I was thinking I got her to eat liver, and she's all happy about it. She's excited, and I said, "We're gonna have ice cream after the liver. We'll eat the ice cream, then we'll eat the liver, and then we'll have ice cream." And I was all proud of myself. And she makes the liver, and we sit down to eat it, and she takes the liver, and she puts like a tiny bit in her mouth, and she goes, "I don't want any ice cream." Like that. And it was the cutest thing. It was the funniest thing, but I knew exactly. It was so disgusting. I couldn't blame her. She didn't want. She just put it in her mouth, and that was after her being all excited. "I don't want any ice cream."
You couldn't fool her, man. You couldn't fool her. That's great.
Liver is just foul, vile stuff. But some people like it. I don't know how, but some people like the stuff
because they know it's good.
It's very good for you, though.
They know it's good for them. All right. Well, we took. Okay, so we have 2 questions regarding kidneys. Lavonda on an email, and Coach Rod also said, what did Coach Rod say? Besides the fact that he knows he knows people that eat from the rooter to the tutor.
I don't know about the tutor, but it probably is good for you. The tutor's probably good for you, but I don't know if I would eat the tutor. The rooter. I don't know what the rooter is, but
I'm guessing from the snout to the bow.
Yeah. The word barbecue means head to tail. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
Barbecue means head to tail, and that's what barbecue is. And when they used to barbecue, they'd eat the whole animal, and that is really, that's the way to eat meat, is to eat the whole animal.
Coach Rod, what was your question? Okay, but we do have a question about kidney function. What can I take to strengthen my kidneys?
Always blood sugar. That's the first thing. Kidney disease and blood sugar go hand in hand, as obviously it's the second point in the triangle of disease. The kidneys also regulate electrolytes along with the adrenal glands, and the adrenal kidney, the technical name for the kidneys are the renals, or the renal system, and the adrenals are part of that system. So the adrenals and the renals go together. The adrenals they're connected, and they both handle the electrolytes. So electrolytes are very important. But Becca, we could put Becca back on because she gets people off dialysis. I don't know if I've got anybody off dialysis, but Becca has. Why don't you contribute that? First, I would say blood sugar is the first thing to think about. But how do you handle that?
No, absolutely blood sugar. But then the next thing is opening up the circulation, the circulatory system. The Ultimate Daily Classic is amazing for that. And then also the Niacin Plus.
Niacin Plus, that's interesting. As a vasodilator?
As a vasodilator.
Yep. The niacin is a vasodilator. And you should give a plug to your health coach thing that you're doing, Becca.
Oh, well, so, Dr. Wallach has done so much research that has led to the formulation of the longevity products that have changed people's lives. So there is something that's not directly related to longevity, but the Institute of Holistic Health teaches Dr. Wallach's research and also uses the longevity products as solutions. And I love the fact that we can look at all 4 areas of health, how they're related to nutritional deficiencies, and then have solutions to correct those deficiencies. And that's exactly what the Institute of Holistic Health teaches. And folks, if you'd like more information about the coaching program, it is a certified holistic health coach course. You can go to coach.dailywithdoc.com.
Thank you, Becca.
Does that work?
Yes.
And it does more. So it goes into more than just the 4 areas of health, because there's actually, like, you break it all down, there's 8. And it talks about the spiritual part and the financial part and the mindset. It's amazing how important mindset is when it comes to life. Because if you don't think that you're going to get well, you're kind of not going to get well. Right?
Thank you, Becca.
Pretty awesome, Becca.
Let's get.
Thanks,
10
AJ.
more minutes here, AJ.
Oh,
So
Pharmacist Ben, 10 minutes. I thought we were going to take the 2-hour block.
2 hours, you said?
I thought we were going to take the 9 and 10 o'clock block. Okay.
Isn't that why you made this earlier?
No, well, he's got a life. He's trying.
I want to ask some questions. Do we have questions?
We have tons of questions.
Where do you see the questions?
Okay, so if you hit where it says chat, you see some YouTube questions.
I see private chat. I see private chat.
Then,
okay, chat. Oh, okay, gotcha.
And then,
oh my God.
Okay, so Marianne wrote in, how to increase Dex bone scan, 71-year-old female. And number 2, she can't seem to lose weight. Could it be hormones? She eats small meals. She exercises. What can she do? 2 questions. First question, bone density.
She's got a bone density issue. What is the bone made of? Connective tissue. So it's all about building the connective tissue. Now, if she's overweight, she probably has some metabolic issues as well. And she's 71, so it'd be unusual for not to have metabolic issues, just the way we live our lives. And she probably is hypothyroid too. But it all boils down to the triangle of disease, as always. So I would be building the connective tissue. How would I be building the connective tissue? By A, addressing metabolic issues, dysglycemia, ketogenic diet, calorie restriction. She says she's eating small meals, but doesn't say what she's eating. But calorie restriction, ketogenic diet, put as little calories into the system as possible, but make sure you're getting your nutrients. And that's where your healthy bone and joint pack will come in. Also, protein, TMR shake, your anabolic nutrients. So branched chain amino acids, as we talked about earlier, and also protein. She'd probably be doing some exercise to rev up her metabolism a little bit. The bones are piezoelectric. What does piezoelectric mean? They generate electrical charges when they're pressurized. So astronauts who go to space, they have to get on a rebounder or a bicycle, because when they come out of space, they haven't had any gravity, so their bones shrivel. They haven't had any pressure on the bones. So sedentary lifestyle is one of the major causes of weak bone density, osteoporosis. Weak bone density, by the way, and osteoporosis they're not diseases. They're symptoms of degeneration. At 71, if you're not, didn't know what you were doing for your whole life, it makes sense that there'd be degeneration, especially if you're overweight, because there's probably hypothyroid issues at that point as well. So number 1, digestion always, because if you don't absorb it, nothing else matters. If there's toxicity getting into the system, which there probably is, that'll make things even worse. So between toxicity, and that includes sugar, by the way, and malabsorption, you got to work on the digestive system first. Then you keep the blood sugar stable as you can. Dysglycemia or messed up blood sugar, elevated blood sugar, will destroy connective tissue via glycation. It will also destroy blood vessels, as we talked about earlier, which will then cause even more problems. So sugar. We could talk about all the problems associated with elevated blood sugar and elevated insulin, which go together. And insulin they don't check on, but you can just say everything instead of isolating specific problems associated with hyperinsulinemia, too much insulin, and dysglycemia. Just say everything. That's why it's called metabolic syndrome. Metabolism's everything. They might as well call it everything syndrome. So anything that is wrong with your body in a degenerative sense, you know what I mean when I say degenerative sense, where the body degenerates rather than regenerating. When you're young, you regenerate. When you're old, you degenerate, right? You understand what I'm saying? The distinction?
Yes.
The body is always in this balance, like a business is in balance of making and spending. In the body, we call it breakdown and build up. When your body is breaking down, that's kind of like it's spending resources. And when it's building up, that's when it's making resources. Like a business, making money, spending money. Degeneration is when your body is in the red. You're always making and spending money, but it's the net, the bottom line that counts, right? In a business, it's the net. You're always going to spend money. You gotta pay your rent. You gotta pay for gasoline for your car, and you gotta pay for heat, etc. You always, whatever your business is, you gotta spend money. But the key is to make more than you spend. So your bottom line's in the black. When you're young, you're constantly breaking down. We're always breaking down, but when you're young, you're building up more. And then you reach a point somewhere around middle age where all of a sudden you're spending more than you're making. You're in the red. And then we become progressively more and more in the red, right? You follow what I'm saying? Anti-aging building is reversing that equation. So you're more building than breaking down. So you're more making money than spending money. That's why nutrition is so important. That's why keeping the toxicity out of the body is so important. All the things we talk about are really mechanisms for becoming more anabolic, more building. When we're older, we become more broken down. We degenerate. All the strategies we talk about are about regeneration. And that's a sign of a healthy body.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Well, we're going to try and rapid fire 3 more. Ben, would you share your wisdom on how to work on resolving relentless overactive bladder for years, waking me out of sleep? At least
Is it a guy?
Jennifer, 5'5", 143 pounds.
Well, I would want to know what else is going on in the system, because it could be normal in the sense that
urgently void, which keeps me exhausted, depleted, and unable to.
I didn't hear what you said.
Numerous chronic health and autoimmune issues.
Well, hello. I didn't hear what you said. What was the first thing you said?
She's got overactive bladder.
No. After that, you said when I said
waking me out of sleep every hour.
No, after that, I said, what else does she have?
That's it. That's basically it. Exhausted, depleted, unable to heal numerous chronic health and autoimmune issues.
Okay, got it. Okay. Yeah. So your problem's not your AJ. Tell us our first principle again.
Yeah, where you see the problem is not where you're going to go to fix the problem.
Correct. Now, connective tissue deterioration sounds like this. I don't know if she has interstitial cystitis, which is kind of where you go to the bathroom a lot, but usually interstitial cystitis is associated with pain. So she has probably connective tissue deterioration. The bladder, like all parts of the body, is dependent on the connective tissue for its strength, integrity, as well as for the health of the cells. And so once the connective tissue deteriorates, you're going to have all kinds of problems, including bladder problems. Now, she didn't say what autoimmune disease she has, but probably there's some immune issues, autoimmunity that's affecting the connective tissue. So just real quickly about the connective tissue and autoimmunity, there are specific autoimmune diseases like lupus and scleroderma that are specific, and Ehlers-Danlos that are specific for the connective tissue. However, the connective tissue can be deteriorated when you have hypothyroidism, or Hashimoto's thyroiditis, or when you have multiple sclerosis, or when you have other autoimmune diseases that aren't full-blown connective tissue diseases. In fact, any toxic blood can cause a deterioration of the connective tissue because the blood is circulating through the connective tissue. The connective tissue is like a mesh that the blood is circulating through. And the connective tissue filters or sieves toxicity out of the blood. So when the blood is toxic from where? The digestive system or the blood sugar system or both, eventually the connective tissue will begin to deteriorate. So this gal's probably experiencing connective tissue deterioration in conjunction with her autoimmune problems. But here's the good news. Where do autoimmune problems begin? In the digestive system. So that's what she should be doing. And again, I say this all the time, and I'll say it again. And I hate to kind of repeat myself, but don't I say the same thing over and over and over again, AJ? Haven't I? You're
Love
muted.
hearing it, though.
I know. I mean, I spent an hour now talking, but I've said the same thing. The digestive system and the blood sugar system. This gal does not have a bladder. Well, she has a bladder problem, but you can't approach the bladder. You can't work on the rotten fruit. You can't work on the engine by working on the light, on the the idiot light. You have to go to the engine. You have to go upstream. So for this gal, digestion and blood sugar, she's probably hypothyroid as well, but you're not going to be able to work on the thyroid. Digestion and blood sugar, mighty 90 essential nutrients. I'd want to ask her more specific questions about her digestion or sugar, etc. But mighty 90 essential nutrients, plus all the digestive support, plus all the blood sugar support.
We will follow up with her. And just two more real quick. Carrie wants to know, what can we do about receding gums?
What part of the body is the gums?
It's connective tissue. Look at that. I'm just learning by the minute.
Bingo. Receding gums are osteoporosis of the gums. They're hernias of the gums. They're ruptures of the gums. They're aneurysms of the gums. Whatever deterioration of the connective tissue part of the body you want to focus on, it's that of the gums. Arthritis of the gums. It's the gums. I mean, it's the connective tissue. So building the connective tissue. The most, interestingly, vitamin C is really interesting. When I think of nutrition, I kind of get a kick out of vitamin C because we all hear about vitamin C, but no one recognizes that vitamin C is the quintessential connective tissue building vitamin. The disease that's caused by vitamin C deficiency, which everybody knows, what's it called?
Scurvy.
Everybody knows, right?
Subclinical
It's a connective tissue disease. It's connective tissue deterioration, and gum disease is part of scurvy. Weakening bones is part of scurvy. Skin that won't heal is part of scurvy. Weakened blood vessels are part of scurvy. Aging is scurvy. Degeneration is scurvy. Connective tissue deterioration is scurvy, except it's subclinical. You know what that means, subclinical?
Yes.
It means it's not bad enough to get you in the hospital. It's not bad enough to kill you. It's bad enough to give you a slow, degenerative, miserable life. And that's why vitamin C is so important. But how do we dose ourselves with vitamin C? Based on the RDA. The RDA, what does it stand for? The ridiculous deprivation allowance, right? Because the RDA of vitamin C is there to keep you from getting full-blown scurvy, because the doctors don't care about keeping you healthy. They care about keeping you alive, right? As we said earlier. So your RDAs are there to keep you alive. They're not there to keep you healthy. I shouldn't say the doctors, say the medical model. It's not the doctors. So the medical model wants to keep you alive. So they give you 60 milligrams as an RDA, or 100 milligrams as the RDA of vitamin C. You need 1,000. You need 10,000 milligrams of vitamin C. In fact, you could it's completely non-toxic. You can inject 50,000 grams or 50,000 milligrams right into your bloodstream. And it's done. They put huge amounts of vitamin C right into your bloodstream, and they're going to tell you 100 milligrams is all you need? Of course not. So most people are way underdosed in vitamin C. And that's people who are supplementing. Now, if you're not using Beyond Tangy Tangerine and you're doing longevity, you're probably getting a good dose of vitamin C. But people who are supplementing with multiple vitamin, they're getting hardly any vitamin C. And you urinate it out. So by the time, a couple hours after you took your vitamin C, it's probably gone. And the more toxicity you put in your body, the more you're burning through your vitamin C. Every time you smoke a cigarette, you lose probably 20 milligrams of vitamin C. And the more sugar you're eating, the more stress your body's under. Animals make their own vitamin C. Humans don't. And there's a bunch of, evolutionary biological reasons for that. But it turns out that goats and cows and dogs and cats, they make their own vitamin C. They never have deficiency. It's not a vitamin for them. It's only a vitamin for humans, gorillas, and like the fruit bat, I think, and some guinea pigs. There's a few animals that can't make vitamin C, but the vast majority of animals make their own vitamin C. But here's the kicker. When an animal is under stress, it will make 10 or 20 times the vitamin C that it makes. In other words, vitamin C is your anti-stress vitamin. Vitamin C is actually used to eliminate stressors. And actually, the vitamin C I call vitamin C vitamin Christ, because it dies for our sins. Vitamin C will break down in order to save us. That's kind of a bad joke, I know, but still, the point is vitamin C is lost by stress and by toxicity and by our poor living, and we're all underdosing in it. So vitamin C is critical for building the connective tissue for gum. This is all about the gal with the gum disease, but for all connective tissue. I'd be getting her on the TMR shake. I'd be getting her on the Healthy Bone and Joint Pack. I'd be getting her on the Fucoid Z. By the way, Fucoid Z, which we should talk about one of these days, because I don't think we've talked about it for a while, contains a very underappreciated nutrient, extremely underappreciated, whose deficiencies are associated with skeletal problems, with connective tissue problems, bone problems. And that's a nutrient called sulfate. Fucoidin contains sulfate. Fucoid Z contains sulfate. Sulfate is used by the body for many, many reasons, but one of its most important roles is to help build the connective tissue, and sulfate deficiency is a common deficiency. And so Fucoid Z can be very helpful. Ultimate MSM can be very helpful for building all the connective tissue, including the gums. I would love to talk about Fucoid Z maybe on Friday or.
Okay, yeah, Becca just put that. That is going to be our conversation on Friday. Maybe we can get Ray and Yolanda to join you.
Oh, that'd be great.
And they could,
or maybe they could bring their people. They could bring their peeps.
Well, because it's just so funny that they talk about it as a panacea. And
it is a panacea. You know why it's a panacea? Let me tell you why it's a panacea. It is and so is vitamin C, by the way. In fact, there's a book. If anybody's really interested in vitamin C, there's a vitamin C savant who's actually a lawyer and a doctor. He's an MD and a JD. And he wrote a book called The Primal Panacea about vitamin C. Thomas Levy. Great book. And easy to read. If you're interested in vitamin C, it's a great read. So Fucoid, I'll tell you why Fucoid Z is a panacea. And a panacea is something that's good for everything. So Fucoid Z is a panacea, number one, because of the sulfate. That's very important for the connective tissues. That means it's going to be important for that whole part of the body. And we've been talking about how important the connective tissue is for feeding all the cells and oxygenating the cells. And by the way, the blood is connective tissue. Did you know that? The blood is connective tissue. Okay, the liquid is liquid connective tissue. So the Fucoid Z also is made with another really fundamental component of the connective tissue. Remember, the connective tissue is made up of mush and rebar, right? Fibers and goo, I call it. The fibers are your collagen and your elastin and your reticulin. When we talk about connective tissue, we often talk about the fiber. We talk about the collagen. Most people, when they talk about connective tissue, talk about collagen. But the goo is even more important, is just as important as the fiber. The goo is made up of what are called polysaccharides, as well as a form of polysaccharide called proteoglycans. And proteoglycans and polysaccharides make up the goo. And the polysaccharides and the proteoglycans, hyaluronic acid is the classic example, but Fucoidin is rich in these kinds. Fucoid Z is rich in these gooey substances. They are gooey because they have a chemical structure that allows them to trap water very effectively. But it doesn't trap water in a way that makes the water loose. It traps the water in a way where it binds. It connects, it interacts with the polysaccharides. And this interaction between the water and the polysaccharides creates a very special kind of water called structured water. And the polysaccharides and the connective tissue are the main structuring systems for the water in the body. And most of the water in the body, and in fact, even in the cells, is this special kind of structured water. As we age, and as the connective tissue deteriorates, as the connective tissue breaks down, as the collagen breaks down, and as the polysaccharides and the proteoglycans break down, we blobify. We lose the water. The water becomes less organized, less coherent, less structured. So anything you could do to help build the connective tissue will help structure the liquids. And when we talk about building connective tissue, we usually talk about collagen, but the fucoid Z is the goo. And so the fucoid Z helps build the connective tissue by providing the goo, and that makes it important for the blood, and it makes it important for the bones, and it makes it important for the skin, and it makes it important for the vessels, the blood vessels and the kidney vessels, and it makes it important for the heart. It makes it important for everything. So yes, it's a panacea. Even though when we talk about it, most people talk about it for what? Cancer, for the immune system. And it's true. It does have very important anti-immune immune boosting properties. But it's also important for the structural part of the body, and also important for the liquid part of the body by organizing the liquid. And possibly most importantly, I don't want to say most importantly, but as importantly, it liquefies the blood. It helps the blood flow more effectively. It makes blood fats more soluble. In fact, there are some people who believe, and I believe also, that the sulfate can make the cholesterol in the body flow more effectively, so it has less of a tendency to clot and clog things. So the fucoid Z, by virtue of its ability to liquefy things and liquefy the blood and solubilize cholesterol, also will have a beneficial effect for people who are worried about cholesterol deposits.
You know, Pharmacist Ben, this is why.
Yes.
This is why readers are always leaders, because you're just a wealth of information up in that cranium of yours.
I like to read. And I actually love chemistry. I mean, I'm a chemistry geek and a biochemistry geek. And it's funny because, you know, our lack of understanding of chemistry is really what costs us health and longevity, because we don't understand chemistry, and it's not that complicated. You know, one of these days, I don't have time to tell you now, but one of these days I'll tell you how I became a chemist. Like what transpired in my little brain to become a chemist. It's a really cool story, and I'll tell you about it someday.
That's because you're playing with those blocks. But just before we go, you already touched on it, so it should be quick. Vlad is wondering what he can do about his daughter's thyroid eyes.
Her daughter's what?
His daughter has thyroid eyes. Yes, they're
like
bulging out.
Bulging eyes. Yeah.
By the way, recently, I was told by someone who had thyroid eyes that the medical system wanted to take the eyeballs out and shave down the sockets to push the eyes in. Swear to you, this is what I was told. I swear this is what I was told.
I don't believe you. That cannot be. That cannot be. That cannot be. That's a sign of Graves' disease. Graves' disease is hyperthyroidism. And interestingly, it's also autoimmune, and it's similar to hypothyroidism from a mechanistic standpoint, although it's the opposite. And let me tell you something. Hypothyroidism is not cool, but hyperthyroidism is so miserable. It is because your body is constantly revved up. You know, hypothyroidism is your body slow down, but hyperthyroidism is you're constantly revved up. So your heart beats really fast, your blood pressure is high, you sweat, your eyes bulge out, you can't sleep, you have anxiety issues. It's the most agonized, awful, miserable existence. And the only remedy that the doctors have, aside from that ridiculous thing that you just said with the eyes, is they'll actually literally take your thyroid out, or they'll poison it with radiation or drugs. There's drugs that they give to poison the thyroid, or they'll actually take the whole thing out. That's how ludicrous this is. Don't go to a doctor and tell them you have a headache. I'm just kidding.
So what's your thought?
What do? You treat it's an autoimmune disease. The main cause of hyperthyroidism is autoimmune reactions against the thyroid. Technically, it's called Graves' disease. And Graves' disease or hyperthyroidism is mostly autoimmunity. So treat yourself like autoimmunity. All autoimmune diseases are digestive diseases, almost by definition. I would say by definition. But, you'll maybe get some pushback there. If the mechanism, I know we've talked about it before, but it's so interesting and it's so important because autoimmune diseases affect tens of millions of people. The doctors will tell you there's no cure. There's 100+ different ones, and there's nothing you can do about it because you're not going upstream. Autoimmune disease, like any other health challenge, you go upstream to the digestive system. How do you prove it? You stop eating and notice that you'll feel better. Hyperthyroid patients, Graves' disease patients, this guy with thyroid eyes, fast for 3 days and everything will calm down. Now it's hard to fast for 3 days, but just pay attention to what you're putting in your system. All autoimmune diseases really, but Graves' disease, you'll notice results really quickly when you fast because the thyroid is so responsive to what's happening in the body.
Vlad, email us at questions@dailywithdoc.com. We will help you. Folks, take a look at Pharmacist Ben's site, the Triangle of Disease.com. And Shantae, I don't know if you could see on the screen there, Shantae's question. You see that, Pharmacist Ben?
Shantae. I don't see Shantae. Oh, Shantae, how does fuel coating compare to CM? I don't know what that means.
All right, Shantae. So you stuck.
What is fuel coating? I hadn't heard of fuel coating.
Fantastic. There is someone who has stumped Pharmacist Ben.
What is
Shantae,
fuel
you will
coating?
get a free bottle of Rebound.
Wait a minute. What is fuel coating? Now I want to know. I don't know.
Okay, Shantae, we gotta go, right? So
okay, all right. Fuel coating is that a typo or is that? I don't know what that means.
Will bring it on Friday. Hopefully, she can join us on Daily with Doc on Friday.
Okay.
And she's always around.
And CMOS, I don't know what that is either.
I mean, I guess I could look it up. Let's see.
All right.
Complementary metal oxide. No, that's a computer term. So I really don't know. And we will find out for Friday, Shantae. So make sure that you are with us so that we can take care of it. Pharmacist Ben, did you hear about the shooting in New York City today?
No, what happened? Oh, with BlackRock, was it? It was one of those.
Yeah, Blackstone, BlackRock, same.
One of those
they're all the same.
Asset management companies that rule the world. You know about asset management companies? There's like 5 of them or something. They own everything.
Okay, Pharmacist Ben, are you familiar with these asset management companies buying up hospitals?
Yeah.
Selling the land that the hospital is on to their sister company, and then charging the hospital rent.
Oh, that's great.
then billing Medicare just until the wheels fall off. So yeah.
All right. We got stuff to talk about on Friday. Thank you, everybody.
Pharmacist Ben, do you know who the man is?
Who's the man?
You the man.